Hey everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we got the pleasure of watching Hotte, or as I'm going to be calling him Hottie, I guess, for the duration of this video, from the European server playing in the Emil II. Now I featured the Kranvagn on this channel last weekend, and the Kranvagn has been significantly buffed, so immediately a lot of you might be thinking, well, has the Emil II also been? And yes, like father, like son, Wargaming have pretty much done exactly the same things to the Emil II that they did do to the Kranvagn. So they've removed one of its shells, so it's now got 3 rounds instead of 4 rounds. Its alpha damage, however, has been increased from 400 up to 440, so a 10% alpha damage increase. So while the magazine damage potential has dropped from 1,600 to 1,320, it's not as if they've just taken away a quarter of the magazine by removing that one shell from it because of the alpha damage buff. Now, for this, they've increased the damage per minute of the tank astronomically. It's now got 2,555 DPM. That is phenomenal for a tier 9 heavy tank. There aren't many tier 9 heavy tanks which are packing so much DPM, and when you combine that with the fact that the vehicle also has an autoloader, yeah, what you saw last week from the Kranvagn just being so dominant, now the Emil II can kind of do that, but when you think about it, it's doing it at tier 9. And apart from the intraclip reload of this vehicle, which is at 3 seconds being worse than the 2.75 seconds of its daddy, the Kranvagn, it's still been buffed. Previously it was 3.33, so this tank needed 10 seconds to be able to unload its entire magazine. Now the intraclip reload has been buffed to 3 seconds, and so it now needs 6 seconds instead to be able to get its 3 rounds out. And as they're hitting slightly harder, especially if you roll high, this magazine can be truly monstrous. Although not as truly monstrous as the previous vehicle, but a lot of Emil II drivers will know just how long it took, or how long it felt like it took to be able to get out those rounds with that 3.33 reload, or should I say intraclip reload. So the Emil II, it's a bit of a bizarre tank because while in every way it's just a little bit worse than the Kranvagn, it's still a pretty gnarly tank in any situation at tier 9. And so when you get yourself into the worst possible matchmaking, I guess, although there are no artillery on the enemy team, so I don't think we can claim this one to be the worst possible matchmaking. Even against tier 10 tanks, this thing can be scary. Look at this bat chat and the Object 277, that tier 10 Soviet heavy tank, a little bit concerned about what is underneath him. And he's just lost his tracks in an engagement. He repairs quickly, but oh, it's too late. 12 degrees of gun depression, enough penetration to obliterate the side armor, and now with an improved unload speed and increased alpha damage, meaning that if it rolled high there, he would have been able to actually take out that Object 277 in just 2 shots, although not rolling high, going to have to take the 3rd. But remember, now the reload of this tank has been decreased from previously when it was 40 seconds to reload those 4 shells, now down to 25 seconds to be able to reload 3 shells. This thing's just absolutely monstrous at dealing damage, unlike it was previously able to do before patch 1.5 in 1.4.1 and previously. The Emil and the Kranvagn and the Emil II were kind of these vehicles that you kind of set up a set play. You kind of made your way to a ridgeline. Maybe you waited for the artillery to fire, or you waited for some big alpha damage on the enemy team to whiff a shell, and then you'd come up and you'd punish them. Or, hopefully, you'd only expose your turret armor, and you'd bounce a shell, maybe against somebody who's not very experienced against the Swedish heavy tanks, and then you'd come up and you'd punish them. Although, as people started to learn more and more how to play against these things, they wouldn't just shoot at your turret willy-nilly, and then give you that opportunity to be able to fully unload in between their reloads. And so, now the Emil, it's not really this set play tank, where you have to try and work within those big plays of the enemy team. When I say big plays, what do you mean? Well, no, like work within a missed shot, or work within a set play to be able to take out an entire tank. Because now you don't even have that real long of a reload, which means you can make a little bit more risky plays. If you don't penetrate a shot and you leave a tank alive, it's not the end of the world, because you've pretty much got your magazine back in within 20 to 25 seconds, depending on what kind of crew skills you have, and whether you're using vents, or whether you're using a gun lane drive, and whether you're using a premium consumable like Hottie is using here. And so it's just so much less vulnerable to that all-in play by the enemy. And those 4 shells previously on this tank did feel rather awkward indeed. You've left yourself just so vulnerable. You were literally vulnerable for about 35 to 40 seconds in this tank. Now that 20 to 25 doesn't feel quite so alarming. And so it means that Emil can be a little bit more risky. And with now 8 more rounds of ammunition in this tank, like you do have in the Kranvagn, and combine that with an improved power to weight ratio, now up to just shy of 15 when it was previously just over 14, this thing is in a better position than ever. And it still confuses me. I just don't know why Wargaming have done this. I know they want to make the line relevant, and there's no doubt that the Kranvagn couldn't be considered an overpowered tank apart from in that one-trick pony kind of situation. But it had a decent win ratio. I think it was about 50 or 51%. And the Emil II, I think, was packing around about that much as well. So what did Wargaming think were going to happen with the Emil II? And also the Kranvagn when they just buffed them massively. They didn't have to change the armor because the armor was already great. They basically just buffed all of the different aspects of the vehicles that made them really awkward to play, i.e. the long reload, the poor DPM that went alongside it. Excuse me. Excuse me. Still getting better, boys and girls. And combining that with the awful unload speed and poor engine power, those are things that held these vehicles back. Now they're just seeming as if they're posting huge scores. And have you, let me know in the comments down below whether you have seen Emil IIs and Kranvagns now carrying games quite often, or maybe you've seen more of them in the matchmaker being more influential than previously. And whether they're going to become a problem. I just wonder if these vehicles are going to become, maybe not like an Object 268 version 4, but are they going to become a little bit irritating to play against? Maybe something like a WZ-111-5A. Now I guess it'll be nice when there's some tank that isn't just a generic Soviet heavy or a Soviet medium that's making power plays, or something really derpy like a Type 5 heavy, or something with an overpowered autoloader like the old Waffenträger Alfie 100 had. So maybe it's the time for the Swedish vehicles. I'm not sure if people are going to get angry about it. People, at least on the European server, are very quick to jump up and call out when there Soviet tanks, or even sometimes German tanks that are just simply outrageous in the game. Mostly Soviet tanks, I think. I mean, there aren't really that many outrageous German tanks, right? I wonder if the server's going to have like a U-turn in their feeling and now start to be calling out these Swedish heavy tanks. Because with the impact that Hottie is having in this game, and even some of the impacts like a complete power scrub like me have been having in the Kranvagn over the last couple of weeks, it's really looking like these tanks are now not just specific picks that you would take to have like a one-trick pony, but being an all-purpose kind of meta ridgeline warrior. And as we can see what Hottie's doing around that corner, engaging those heavies, working his armor, making sure he doesn't expose the lower plate, and if he goes round, he tries to only expose the upper plate here, hopefully try and bait them to miss the lower, or even try and kind of side scrape out, which does make the upper plate a little bit weak, but hides the lower plate. Yeah, these things can do some serious work. Alright, so a neck-and-neck game here. 11 kills on either side with 4 vehicles remaining. 2 tier 10s versus a tier 10 and a tier 9 with 2 tier 8s supporting. Alright, so Hottie immediately sees some blood possibly in the water here of a wounded 277. So he's going to get forwards. He's going to plow 1 into the lower plate. He's firing heat now with 300mm of penetration, so he needs to avoid the spaced armor on the side of the 277. So quite rightly so, he's not going to shoot at the tracks here, but he's going to find the lower plate of the 277, and wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. That is 1 tier 10 taken out of this game with an impressive, what was that? That was pretty much 11, that was a 1,200 magazine. And yeah, when you've got 440 alpha damage, you will consistently do 1,200 even with a little bit of bad RNG when you're firing 3 shells. Previously this tank, I guess, with the increased unload speed and just the fact that each shell did less, in the fact that you had, you would have to be sitting there firing at longer against the 277, and sure, I guess if you rolled good and you bounced a shot or you missed a shell, you could still kill him with the 4th shell, but it just feels so much more consistent now. To have this unload speed and to have the increased alpha damage, I've been feeling a lot more consistent in my Kranvagn at taking down targets. Alright, so now with the Grilla vanquished at the back, it's only a Lerva and a Stridsvagn S1 on the enemy team, who is actually located all the way back at A0. Now Totte actually shows a little bit of a choke there on the lower plate of the Lerva, but it's not a big deal. He was never going to be able to take out that German heavy tank with a single magazine. But again, with that new 25-second reload improved up to about maybe 22 seconds with improved crew skills, vents, and all of that lovely, is that cinnamon and coffee that they have? Yeah, coffee with cinnamon buns is the Swedish premium autoloader consumable. Then that means that he's going to now be able to vanquish this Lerva with probably the final shot. But what? What, talking about rolling and bad RNG, I cannot believe it. Hottie actually manages to massively low roll for 378 and 375 out of 440. Can you believe it? And then leaving the Lerva on a single hit point. Well, that's incredibly awkward. Well, I guess I don't know what I'm talking about with rolling good with these rounds and being more consistent, right? Well, I'll talk about consistent. This was more than a consistent impact in this battle. 10,000 damage in a tier 9 heavy tank. Wow, this might be one of the best games I've ever seen for an Emil II. And unsurprisingly, that nails Hottie an ace tanker for a cool 2,026 base experience points. That is tremendous in any vehicle, let alone a tier 9 tank, and makes a good profit with or without a premium account. So in Hottie's replay description, he says, best damage with the Emil II on the EU server ever, I would say. And yes, after taking a look, this is the highest damage anyone at least has uploaded in the Emil II of all time on the What Replays EU website. And is it really surprising considering how much Wargaming have simply buffed this tank? And I don't see the Emil II sitting with only 51.5% average win ratio for very long. These vehicles are truly going to become meta picks, and when we think about the impact that you can have, perhaps tier for tier, you might want to keep the Emil II even when you get the Kranvagn, because while this is a case of it being like father like son, I think with the Emil II competing in the lower leagues, yeah, it might be even more impactful than the tier 10 Swedish heavy tank. So Hottie, congratulations to you, an incredible game in an incredible tank. And hats off to you for nailing the highest ever damage that I've seen in a Emil II, and I think that has been uploaded. And hopefully all of you out there enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as is released on Sunday, it's time for another World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And this week, a light tank has won. Oh my word, I'm going to be playing up to the Pana EBR 105, which won by a single vote against some Soviet tanks, the Object 705A and also the Object 268 version 4. And so come along right now as I showcase the fastest tech tree in the game, so you can see if it's a line that's worth grinding, or alternatively, if you're struggling in some of your wheelie fast vehicles, then maybe I can provide a few tips and tricks. Yeah, not sure if I can get away with that, Ron. Anyway, really looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.